Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Supercoach Challenges. Now for round 7 trade targets, we're going to be looking at the forward line. And if you've just seen the midfielder defender videos, as we can see with the midfielders, actually quite a mess at the moment trying to pick who we're going to bring in. Forward line, I think, is a little bit easier because there's less choice. Less specific choice. I think we know he's going to average about 105, so we can kind of pick them based on that. And Jezza Cameron is the first one on this list with a F1, and he has got a pretty nice tasty run coming up. 590k is a lot to play for a key forward though, but he has been racking up a lot of ball, and I think Geelong are going to lean on him in the forward line. I think that Hawkins is getting a little bit old, and I think Jazz could be quite a good pick. His 3-round average is 127. His 5-round is 121. You can't really argue with those numbers. Even when they lose, he scores big. And I think he could be one that we end up all having in our teams at the end of the year. In saying that, 590k is a lot to play for a full key forward, so I can understand waiting. I'd say his break even would actually be quite high, 115. That is below just on his average, so every chance he goes above that, especially against Essendon, who's probably struggling a little bit for like big key defenders. So yeah, I think Cameron's an all right pick, but based on schedule alone. And I think he's one you can maybe look at bringing in, but the price is, a bit hard to swallow. Tim Taranto is next. Great player. Finally got that big score. It's always been efficiency, just let him down. 60% owned. I still think at 569k you should get him in because everyone has him anyway. So if he goes bad, you're with 60% of the competition. So just get him in if you don't have him. Darcy Cameron, think about him in a couple of weeks. Could be a great forward line option, but wait until a couple of weeks down the track when he's back from injury. Dunks just hasn't really set the world on fire for us, but as I was saying in the midfield video, he has a great run coming up, and we should always think of the player that he has been. As we can see, 155 last game at Marvel, and even all three of these teams he's had quite big scores against at some point, so I don't think you can write the guy off. And I think it's 68% have him anyway, so if you don't have him, what are you doing? Because I think he was the first player in a lot of our teams, and I don't think much more needs to be said about him. And also, if you're enjoying the video so far, hit that like button. Costs you nothing. Subscribe as well. I know that I ramble on in these videos a bit, but it is to give you a bit of an opinion and help you to form your selection basis, because I know when I watch trying to make choices, I love watching, getting everyone's opinion to kind of help form my own. And hopefully I'm helping you out a little bit here. So moving on to Connor Rosie. Thought have quite a good run. 46% owned, so a bit lower than Tim Taranto and Just Dunkley seem to be in a lot of teams. As long as he gets the midfield time he has been getting, he's going to be a good midfielder. I guess his average so far hasn't been great, but it's been good enough for the forward line. And I think that you'd be happy to have him in the team. 525k, so he's priced under a lot of the midfielders we were talking about, and he's probably scoring just as good as a lot of the midfielders we were talking about. And he has less of an injury cloud over him. He's young. He's back end after the buys, he could absolutely turn it on. So definitely one to look at. Stephen Coniglio. So Coniglio, what a love-hate relationship with this guy. 20% owned now. I think a lot are going to bring him in this week. If you want to bring him in, this is probably the week to bring him in. But in saying that, think about the fact that a lot of people are bringing him in, and he is 499k. And if you don't have Rosie, he's only 25k more. And I'd probably prefer Rosie just because he seems to be a little bit more entrenched in that midfield. Um, GWS, they've got a hard run coming up as well, and it could be just one you wait on. The previous few games, he's been a little bit shonky for just champion data scoring. But the disposals have been there, apart from the fact that his scoring hasn't been there. So I still think it's a good pick. 25k cheaper if you don't have the money. As I've said, and I keep repeating, money is going to be an issue this year. The rookies are dropping like flies a little bit, and even the ones that are scoring aren't scoring amazingly. So definitely think about Caniglio. I think that he's going to go at least 100 to 105, which would be perfectly fine for our forward line. Anyway, Jack Siebel, we did discuss on Defender 1. I don't think we need to discuss much there. He's going to be perfectly fine FC. So if you want him, get him. If you don't, move on. Harry Sheasel, same thing. Spoken in the Defender video. As we said, it's still going to be role dependent. So go back and watch that video. I talk about it more there because I forgot that they were forwards. But if you want him, grab him. If you don't, 80% of us have him. So I don't think we really need to talk about him. Most of us have him. Charlie Dixon. Now this is an interesting one. He's been getting a bit of ruck time for Port. He was injured last week, which is I think is reason enough to stay away from him. He is old. He is a big boy, but he is capable of kicking big calls as well. But I think they're going to be looking to rest him a little bit because he's getting smacked a bit in the ruck. But they did bring in Tickle last week, so that may be reason enough not to bring him in. So to not to have to put him in the ruck as much. But when he goes out of the ruck, he probably scores less as well. So yeah, probably let that one rest. Machito Owens, what an interesting player. Was sitting at 250k and he's been averaging 98, 113 over the past 3 and a 5 round of 102 actually. Would have been a great starting pick if you had him. I'm not sure you can play him, pick him now. 450 is pretty steep. He has been getting a bit of ruck time, which has helped out his scoring. And I would probably say, look, if you like what St Kilda was so winning, which is probably attributing to his high scoring. So, look, I just think that there's probably better options. But as we keep going on about, money is an issue. So, if you think this is a bit of a breakout year for Mitch Owens, I can't see a reason not to go. And only 5% owned, bit of a pod, but as you said, this could backfire, especially if St Kilda start losing some matches. We talked about Bacon, the defenders vid, so go there if you want to hear about that. Mr. Fix It, probably not one to touch. Zach Butters, very interesting. If you want to get him, the week is now. He's getting more mid-time, break even of 57. As we discussed, Port's runs, St Kilda, Essendon North, and then they've got Melbourne, who are also quite, it's at Adelaide over for 1, and they're also quite easy to score against as midfielders. And then Richmond Hawthorn, who are also easy-ish to score against. So if you want to get Butters, probably the round to get him. I think he'll be perfectly serviceable. Probably can go pretty close to Caniglio, to be honest, but is priced a little bit more expensive than Caniglio now. So bit of a choice to be made there. But I think you'll be pretty happy with him either way. The obvious problem is he does, cop a few injuries. He throws his body around, which has always been an issue with Butters. But I think you wouldn't be too mad having him. I think that he's got a really nice ceiling and he could be looking to break out in the back half with his age, which is something that he does have over Caniglio being a little bit younger. Dylan Moore, surprisingly, has sat around the same price, even though he's averaging only 95.5, which is very interesting. If this guy could get mid-time, he would be great, but the Hawks, I think, are showing that they've got the guys they want in the midfield in there, and I'm just not sure that Moore can really get the scores we want all together throughout the year. I reckon he's going to probably drop back to an 85, 90, especially once Hawthorn have been fairly competitive recent games, and I think that's going to drop off come later this season, and it's not going to help Dylan Moore. So I think skip that one. Zorko, Brisbane have a good run. Problem is, I don't think Zorko's getting much mid time, but he did show. Was it last year? His just back end was no, it must have been the year before. It was just ridiculous. But he's always an injury issue. And I would probably stick clear. Charlie Kerno. He just keeps goals, this guy. But key forward issue. So maybe if Carlton, I think Carlton have had their nice run though. So I was gonna say maybe if Carlton have a nice run, you go. So like you could see here, this was probably quite good, but the Adelaide game is bad. Out. I was gonna say they have West Coast. So they have West Coast, Brisbane. Yeah, no, I'd definitely be skipping on Kerno. Toby Green, if he gets more mid time, they actually did throw him into the midfield last game. Because they were a little bit they're trying to turn the game a little bit, and that's why he kind of scored a little bit better. But he does get stuck in the forward line a bit, and I think he's also one you can skip. All right, let's have a look then at, as we say, actually last time. Let's have a look. So why is that coming? Oh, the filters, that's why. So looking at the forward line, so Will Snelling would have been interesting as a starting mid-pricer, but I just don't think it's worth paying 278k for him. People did this with like Chase Jones 2 weeks ago. He scored 100 in the game, they got him in, but then has scored like a 40 last week because he was just kind of out of position bit. So I think that Snelling's a skip, especially when you've got James Mitchell, who we discussed in the defense video below him. And even Sam Simpson, you could pick over Snelling. So not that I would. I think that Mitchell is the top rookie to pick. And then after that, you're probably waiting on Angwin next week. Ollie Lord and actually Sam Sturt this week, I would probably be looking at as well because Fremantle do have a few injuries, and it's looking like they will try and give him a bit of a role. Max Ramsden could be an interesting trade down from a Samson Ryan in a couple of weeks. So we'll wait on that. I don't know how long term this position will be though, especially if their other ruts come back. Because I think who's the Fremantle ruckman they got? Young guy from Fremantle. Ruck. He's been playing pretty average this year. Sorry. 3. I'm just going to press Hawthorn. Lloyd Meeks, sorry. Yeah, if Lloyd Meeks back, then I just don't see if Ramsden's staying there long term. And Max Lynch is also injured, which is probably why he's got a game. So, and it's concussion. So it's probably like a 1 week game, unless he plays really well. So, we'll wait and see till he gets on the bubble. Otherwise, the other value, yeah, obviously Angwin, he actually looked really good. He was late in for GWS, but he did play very, very well. And if he plays well again, he probably keeps the spot. Sturt, as we said, a lot of injuries at Fremantle. So probably one I'll look to go in because I'm doing a double downgrade this week. Cadman, probably good on a different team. He's got the key forward issue as well, and I don't think we need 200k rookies to be starting either. And otherwise, going down this, Mitch Lewis first game back, that'll be interesting for our young Green. Could be one we're looking at trading out. Soldo in as a forward as well. Rock as well would be very interesting as a downgrade, maybe option. Angus Sheldrick, interesting. Look, Sydney are going to have a lot of players coming back, so I don't think his job security is that great. So it's going to be just one we wait for the bubble. And otherwise, yeah, looks like that's about it. So I would be saying out of your rookies, you're probably looking at definitely getting Mitchell, and then if you need a second Sturt, and then waiting on next week, Angwin and maybe some of these other rookies like Ollie Lord kind of look like first. So with our top 3 picks this week for forwards and top 3 targets we'd be looking at getting in, I would probably be saying your number 1 would have to be Caniglio, closely followed by Zach Butters, and then it looks like Rosie's in actually quite a good little area of price as well. His break even must 83 break even, so not as low as Butters. Probably Butters, if you want him, you definitely have to go this week. And then and same as Caniglio. I'd probably go Caniglio just for the lower price, and probably a little less injury risk, but anything can happen. We saw that last week with Took. And then otherwise kind of Rosie, but a lot of us already have him. So if you've got a bit of value out of this, thanks for sticking around. As I say, I love sitting here and chatting about the players, giving you a little bit of insight into what I think about them. Whether you take that information and think it's good, up to you. But that's just my thoughts anyway. So this was Supercoach Challenges. Once again, like and subscribe to follow along with our team and the challenge, which we're doing all right in. And we'll see you in the next video. Cheers.